Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here, welcome back to the Railway and welcome to another Hornby Railroad steam loco unboxing. So I think I've done it, folks. I think I've already found the bargain of the year. If you haven't heard of this already, this is going to absolutely blow your mind. So the loco that I'm going to be reviewing today is this. It is the Hornby Railroad Hall Class. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, he's reviewed one or two of those before. And yes, that's true, but I've never reviewed this version. And given that I'd already got a couple of these, I wasn't ever going to buy any more. Obviously, you don't need three of the same class. However, there was a special reason that caused me to pick this one up, and I'm super excited to review it for that reason. So it's happens again. Goodness knows what's happened. Maybe they've just got too many of them. But either way, they've done major reductions on this. They are selling this model for £49. That is less than 50 quid for a large steam locomotive. That's pretty crazy. And it's also a livery that I've never had before. This is the Great Western Lined Green, which from the photos looks absolutely amazing. I've not seen this up close before, so this will be my first time, but from the photos it looks absolutely astonishing, and for £49 that is crazy. The RRP is £95, so we're getting nigh on half price for this thing. So I can't wait to get this out. I am sorry if you've already seen me review a Hall Class before, but as I say, I do think this is the best version, so it does warrant a new review, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. There's a link in the description if you want to pick some of these up. At the time of filming, they are still available for £49. More than likely, once I've done this video, that won't be the case for long, so if you fancy it, do check it out. If you want to watch the review first, that is absolutely fine. Let's get started, see what this is like. Alright, so here we go. Yes, Hornby Railroad range. So as you know, these locomotives are supposed to be quite cheap and they're not supposed to be all that detailed. And bear in mind that when we take this out, obviously I have seen this model before. Well, not this particular one, but a different version of this same model. So I kind of know what we're in for today, and maybe you will as well if you've seen my previous videos. But just remember, these are supposed to be cheap budget models, right? And there's a special reason why. Okay, let's take a look at the end of the box. So this one is R3170. It is the GWR Class 4900, also known as the Hall Class, of course, Adderley Hall number 4901. And that's basically all there is to show you on the outside of the box. Clearly there's no information on the back of the box. Hornby have never done that with railroad stuff. I assume they don't think beginners and children really care about that sort of thing, which I guess is partly true. I can see why they would think that. So, if I can, in my excitement, get this open, hopefully, we will take a look. I think actually I opened it at the wrong side there, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have the instruction manual. I know this is the dull part, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. Okay, so there we go. Hall Class, it says, operating and maintenance instructions. And inside there, you've got the usual looking Hornby diagram, so it's got all of the oiling points. Shows you how to fit the DCC decoder, and already we can see a great sign, because as you can see, the decoder is in the tender, so we might even get tender pickups with this model. I can't actually remember, but hopefully we will. But either way, yep, that is quite useful, obviously, if you want to dismantle the model, as always, but not useful for us today, just to review it. So I'm having a look, yep, flipping it over. I know that's an odd thing to do, but there is a little bit of a bag here, a detail bag. I think we can all guess what's going to be in it, but I will take it out anyway. Oh, right. Oh, it's quite... You see, even this is better than most of the railroad stuff. You have an M coupling there, which you could presumably fit into the front of the model if you decide to, and you've got a painted vacuum pipe there, which is quite nice. Normally it's just the box standard, you know, black plastic vacuum pipe. This one's painted into the red, which is great. So there we go, that is that. I'm going to put that back in safe. I probably won't want to use the front coupling today, so that can stay right there, that is fine. Okay. Let's get this out then. For the first time, let's take a look at this Great Western Lined Green. Right, there's some sellotape. I'm going to have to try and overcome this without any sharp tools, because I haven't got any with me. Okay, there we are, that's one. Let's try and get the other one off. Oh, goodness. That's two. Man, this is like torture. I just want to get into it. Come on. There we are. Okay, so it's in like plastic. Peel that back. Oh, gosh. Oh, wow, this looks great. Yeah, I can tell already this is going to be my favourite livery. Right, there's holes in the back, so I'm going to use those for this one, because it's a bit of a snug fit, is this? Man, it's a very snug fit. Okay, I got it. Whoa, there it is. Absolutely delicious. Slightly odd way of phrasing it there, but no, Look at that, isn't that just amazing? What a gorgeous looking model for a Hornby Railroad range piece. Absolutely incredible. So there she is, Adderley Hall, in the beautiful Great Western lined green. Absolutely love that. So if you can bear to wait, I'm going to go ahead now and give you a little bit of history on the halls. And as soon as I've done that, we'll come back and have a good close look at this thing. All right, let's do that. So the Hall Class, or 4900 class as they're also known, was introduced in 1928 to the design of Charles Collett, and for many years the Hall Class was the standard mixed traffic engine on the Great Western Railway. The class was heavily based on the earlier Saint class and was very closely related to them mechanically, although they were of course much larger and much more powerful. They proved to be extremely successful locomotives, so much so that the other railway engineers from different companies, such as Thompson from the LNER for example, took some inspiration from their design to create their own locomotives. The B1, I suppose, would be that one. In addition, an impressive 258 were produced in total over the 15-year production span. It's quite an unusually long time really for a single class of loco, and in 1948 the Halls of course became part of the British Railways fleet, where they were classified as a 5MT, which is not too bad for a design that dates back to 1902, which is when the Saints were first introduced. Now around 10 of the halls have been preserved, although the rest were scrapped, and Adderley Hall was the first to be built from scratch in 1928, that is, not to be rebuilt from a Saint, and it was withdrawn and scrapped in September 1960, very unfortunately. Okay, so there she is then, the beautiful Railroad Hall Class up against the white background. Adderley Hall, absolutely gorgeous. And when you look at her like this, when you don't look too close, it really does just look like a Hornby Railways locomotive. There is no way, if you'd have shown this to me a year ago or whatever, there is no way I would have said that looks like a 50 quid locomotive. This is just crazy. Now obviously I'm not going to try to convince you that this is on the same level as the Hornby main range stuff. It obviously isn't. There are areas on the model where Hornby have cut off bits of detail and they've simplified things in order to keep the costs and also the fragility down, which is very, very important for a Hornby Railroad model. But equally, by the same token, there are many, many features of this model which are unheard of for a railroad locomotive, and it's really, really impressive to see a lot of those there. So yeah, I am going to pick out on some of the points that this falls down on, but don't take that as a criticism, just take that as, you know, I'm reviewing the model fairly if I can. But we're going to start with the impressive parts first of all then, so let's take a close look at the livery. As you can see, the banding on this locomotive is just exquisite. Look at the detail, you've got that sort of orange banding with the black in the middle. Now that is unheard of on a railroad locomotive. Usually the railroad locomotive linings look like this. This is the county class that I looked at not long ago. Can you see how chunky that looks? This one, not so. Look at that. And most railroad locos are chunky and single. Here's an LNER one. Just look at the difference there. I don't know why you've got such a beautiful lining job on this particular model, but for whatever reason you have, and that doesn't seem to have put the price up too much. You've also got the Adderley Hall nameplate there, which is really, really nice. I would go as far as to say that looks etched to me. I've put my sort of lips to it. I know that's odd, but it feels cold. I can't say for sure because it doesn't feel as cold as, say, the valve gear and the rods and such, but it does feel a little bit that way, so it's almost as though we've got an etched nameplate on there. It certainly looks that good, doesn't it? And of course on the wheel arches as well, the splashes I should say, you've got the gold lining as well, which is fantastic. Now look at the side of the cab. You've got more of this intricate lining which looks just great. You've got the running number very, very nicely applied there. And glazed windows, you've got that ultra realistic looking glazing in the windows as well. It doesn't just look like a bit of plastic. Again, it's got that sort of odd refraction that makes it look like glass. It's great. And then these fine little handrails that hold up the back of the cab there, which are separately fitted, I believe. And on the subject of separately fitted details, you have got quite a bit. Now, the whistles in front of the cab here are just made of plastic. I think that's quite clear. But to be honest, the Railways range, the main Hornby range, often uses plastic on the whistles and such. So that, I suppose, is not a massive downgrade at all. And then with the safety valve bonnet here, if you look into there, again, it is made of just painted plastic. But look at the fidelity in there. That is a really quite detailed piece. It looks pretty good. Again, I've seen Railways models that don't look as effective as that. Now, if we just flip over to the other side of the model, you will see that we have a separately fitted metal reversing rod, which is great. Again, some of the Hornby Railways locomotives don't have a metal reversing rod, and yet here we are with a £49 model which has one. It's absolutely astonishing. And just look at the level of detail as well on the running board, on the running plate. Look at all those rivets and things. That is crazy. I don't think I've ever had a Hornby Railroad locomotive that has just as much attention to detail on the running plate as this one does. It does have the lamp irons. I think those are just part of the moulding. But again, fair play to Hornby. If they're going to cut costs that way, that's absolutely fine. There are some areas on the model where the cost cutting is a little bit more apparent. It's not a problem because it's supposed to be a cheap loco, but I will point it out to you. I do think the tip of the chimney here, the very top, is made of plastic. It has been painted up to look a little bit metallic. Actually, not ineffectually, really. It looks pretty good, doesn't it, that? But touching it, feeling it, it does seem as though that's made of plastic, which I think is fair enough. The smoke box door is relatively simple, and as you can probably quite clearly tell, the smoke box dart there is just part of the moulding, which again isn't normally what you get with top class models, although it's fine on this one because it is just a relatively cheap model. Now again, the buffer beam on the front looks really, really impressive. It's got all the riveting and all the paintwork, and you have got metal buffers attached which look good, but those are not sprung. And sometimes you get sprung buffers on the railroad range, and sometimes you don't, and on this one you don't. But I suppose, once again, that's fair enough. And also underneath the boiler, you can see it is just a blank area there. There is no, machinery back there, let's say. I can't remember whether these are 2 or 3 cylinder locomotives. I think they're probably just 2, aren't they? I can't remember, but I think they are just 2. So perhaps it's so that there wouldn't be a 3rd cylinder back there, but presumably there'd be some sort of valve gear between the frames in real life. Either way, that hasn't been represented on the model. Now, we've already talked about the beautiful glazing that goes on with the cab, so the cab isn't too bad from the outside, but if we take a look inside, despite actually there being an awful lot of cab detail inside there, none of that is painted, which again sets it apart from the main range of Hornby stuff. Again though, I don't think any of us were expecting to see a painted cab here on a railroad model, and I think it's fine that that hasn't been done. And if we take a look at the connecting rod assembly here, you can see that unlike some railroad models where they sort of make it really, really chunky so that children can handle it and things, that doesn't seem to have been done with this one. It looks to be really, really fine scale, and this slider here that comes out of the cylinder looks to be a really nice die-cast piece. So even that hasn't been simplified, which I suppose is bad if you want to give this to children. I don't know whether that makes it more fragile. I suppose it does a little bit, but I think children need to know to be careful with these things anyway. But for adult collectors that like a bargain, that makes this model particularly appeal to those. So that is the loco. We'll get onto the tender in just a second, but yeah, don't you think that is way above the standard of a Hornby Railroad locomotive? So I've got a bit of a theory on this, because this came out quite a few years ago, around the same time as Hornby's Design Clever stuff. And you know what I mean by the Design Clever locos. It was the P2 and the Duke of Gloucester, that sort of thing, where they released new locomotives into the Hornby Railways range, but they made them super cheap. They didn't have sprung buffers, the certain details were missed off, things were simplified, they didn't have painted cabs, that sort of thing. And there was a massive backlash. People didn't like it, people didn't like having to spend the same amount of money for an inferior model. And so Hornby very quickly stopped doing that, and they went back to producing the same high quality models that we all expect. Now this model sort of reeks of that Design Clever era. No painted cab, no sprung buffers, but otherwise relatively high detail, higher than the railroad range, but not high enough to be in the railways range. So I don't know whether this has any credence at all, but it's almost as though Hornby were developing this as a Design Clever model to put into the railways range, and then perhaps after that backlash that they received for the Design Clever models, maybe they decided actually this ought to go in the railroad range just to keep the peace. No idea whether that's true or not, but it does have a lot of the features that those Design Clever models did have. So that's my guess anyway. Could be wrong, could be right. I'd guess no one will be able to confirm or deny that. Okay, on to the tender, and again we have this beautiful early Great Western paintwork on the tender, which looks just fantastic. The level of lining, as always, is really, really impressive for a Hornby Railroad loco. And of course you've got the Great Western logo and lettering there, which looks absolutely fantastic. It really is well done. The underframe detail is very, very impressive as well. You can see that we do have a scoop pre-fitted to the underside there. There are some holders for the brake rigging there, although we haven't received any brake rigging for this model. So I guess again that is just a cost-cutting feature. Once again, this model isn't designed to be all that realistic, even though it is in many areas, so I guess it's fair enough that they haven't included any brake rigging there. The coal in top is relatively realistic. It looks just like the majority of the Hornby coal. It doesn't look any simpler really than other Great Western locos I've had from Hornby in the main range. I suppose it's probably removable as well, although I haven't tried. It does seem to be shoved in there quite nicely. The tender's pretty good though. I mean, you've got a good range of separately fitted handrails which look pretty good. A couple of the handrails on the back are just a part of the moulding, and I haven't seen that anywhere else on the model. It is only there, so why that is the case, I'm not absolutely sure, but again, that reeks of design clever to me, if you ask me. And then around the back, you can see that we do have the vacuum pipe pre-fitted, so it must have been the front one that came in the detail pack. And again, you've got those reasonably realistic buffer beams with the non-sprung buffers, but I think they look pretty good nonetheless. They are made of metal. And of course, you've got the NEM coupling fitted to the back. So an absolutely beautiful model, not necessarily, you know, the most detailed model you'll ever see, but it's certainly a lot more detailed than you would expect it to be coming from the railroad range. So with that, let's move on now to performance. Let's get her down onto the track and see how she runs. Okay then, so there she is, the very, very beautiful Hornby Adderley Hall down onto the track. And yes, I've got to say I do love the Hall Class. They are quite unusual looking though, aren't they? This big square firebox here does look pretty odd. But no, I do love it nonetheless. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about performance then. Now, I haven't really said much about the weight. Obviously, the bulk of the loco body is made of plastic, but it has got a reasonably heavy chassis on there. Having said that, it doesn't weigh a terrible amount. It's just acceptable, I would say. Not remarkably light, but not remarkably heavy either. So I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, how well this is going to pull. We'll have to test that and find out. However, though, mechanically it is very, very good. The tender does indeed have pickups. I had a quick look and I promised I would feed back to you on that. And yes, it does have full tender pickups, which means that each line, each rail has got 6 pickups going to it. So you've got truly, truly reliable running from this, or so that should be. I mean, the others that I've got are, so hopefully this will be as well. Now, in terms of the loco itself, it has got quite a large beefy motor inside there, so that isn't a problem, although there are no proper bearings on the wheel set, and in fact, if I remember correctly, they are sort of square bearings, so that is very poor. I wish that wasn't the case, and again, that was the case with a lot of the design clever locos that Hornby produced. The Cock of the North is the same, and the and the Duke of Gloucester is the same. So yeah, a little bit poor on that. They've obviously saved a little bit too much money on that, but for 49 quid, I'm not going to complain. Obviously, the other design clever locos were much more expensive than that. Okay, so first ever run then, as I say, she hasn't been run before, so this will be the first time we're seeing her run together. So here we go, I'll turn the power up very, very slowly and we'll see what we get out of it. I can hear a bit of a buzzing. And I think she is moving. And that slow speed is absolutely astonishing. Can you tell that she's moving there? Because she is. That is ridiculous. See what I mean? This is a railroad locomotive. I've got top of the range models that don't do this well. Let me try and get in a bit closer on that. I am absolutely blown away by that. Seriously, I'm looking at it and it doesn't look like it's moving. You have to really look closely to notice that it is. And it's been doing this now for about 30 seconds and it hasn't cut out. Seriously, in the last minute or so, it's done about 1/4 of a revolution. It is crazy. Let's try it on the express points. I really don't know what to say. I'm speechless about this. How can it be that such a cheap model performs so nicely? Right, let's get it onto the express points. Right, cut the speed. I noticed then it wasn't quite as smooth at the higher speeds. There we go, it's just inching. I mean, there's no way it's going to stop on there because it's got 12 pickups in total. I mean, that's just, it's astonishing. £49. Yeah, I mean, that is great. That is great. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to have to gather myself now. So I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to start her off running at about half speed just to get her running, and I'll get you some shots of her running around the room. And we'll be right back in half an hour or so, a little bit longer perhaps, and then we'll see how she runs after she's had a chance to run in. Okay, off you go then, Mrs. Hall Class. Oh, she got called Mrs. then, that's quite posh. All right, let's see how she looks. So that performance has blown me away, needless to say. I have had locos that have cost nearly 4 times as much that didn't run anywhere near that good. I'm thinking of the Hornby Coronation Class. Just how can it run so well? I'm absolutely astonished by that. I've forgotten how well these ran. I can't even remember my other two Hall classes running this well. I'll have to try that. Right, I really do need to go and calm down after this one. So we'll leave her to it, I'll let her run in, and I'll talk to you in just a second once she's done so. Alright, don't go anywhere. Okay, there we go. I think that should just about do. Well, I'm not even going to bother doing another slow speed test because, to be honest, I think I would probably keel over if it did any better than it has done already. But we will do a little bit of a test on the pulling power then. So I have set up 7 of my Great Western coaches. In fact, that's all of those that I have. So that's about as many as I can put on the back of this. As I say, it's not dreadfully heavy, but I have a feeling that we ought to at least try it with 7 and see if it can manage. So let's go and couple. And with a little bit of luck, I reckon she will actually manage it. Well, that's my prediction anyway. Okay, keep it nice and steady if I can. There we are. Well, she's able to shift them, so that is at least a thumbs up to start with. Okay, let's adjust the camera then, and we will get her off and see how she goes on Gordon's Hill. All right. Good luck, Adderley Hall. Let's hope you can do it. Okay. It has slowed down a little bit. I can't tell whether it's wheel slipping at all. I think it probably is. But it managed it. And I'm pleased about that because now I can absolutely justify giving it a 5 out of 5 on performance. Because that was astonishing. Really, really good, that. Okay, very impressive. So I've got some more Great Western 460s to show you. In fact, I've got more Hall classes to be running. So here we have Alton Hall in the maroon. She's coming in now. Notice that it has got a different tender when it gets in. So I think Adderley Hall has got the collet tender, if that's right. So what tender would that be? I'm not absolutely sure, but I do believe that is a different tender. I think so. Okay, off we go then. Let's start that. And then on the inside line, we've got yet another version of the same model, and this one is the one that I reviewed a little bit more recently, and this one is Pitchford Hall. Also in Great Western green, just like Adderley, but this one is unlined. And so I do think Adderley is my new favourite now. I think she definitely outshines these two. But see which other Great Western 460s you can spot on the layout, and see if you can spot the odd one out as well. So, for £49, I think this has got to be the best value I've ever seen. It's right up there, isn't it, with the likes of the Oxford N7 and all of the good ones. Just can't believe what you're able to get for that amount of money. It's quite a good train as well. Look at the size of that. It has slowed down somewhat, but it's managing it, so you can't fault it. It really is a fantastic model, and again, I'd forgotten how good the model was, even though I'd seen them before. Alton Hall's very nice. I quite like it in the maroon, but obviously it's not quite as authentic as the early Great Western green. I have to love that the most, I think. There we are, lovely Alton Hall. She looks actually lovely with those blood and custard coaches as well. I don't know whether I've ever run her with those before, but I certainly will do again, because that's lovely. And good old Adderley Hall. Again, you would not know that she wasn't a top of the range, you know, Hornby Railways loco, would you? You just wouldn't know it. I'm struggling to believe it, in fact. But no, it is indeed a Hornby Railroad loco. Okay, so here are some of my ratings then for the really, really impressive Hornby Railroad Hall class. So detail, I have given it a 3-star. Yes, it is a lot better than a lot of the other railroad models, but in the grand scheme of things, in comparison to every other model out there, I think it does work out at about 3 stars, but that is impressive for a railroad model. Performance though, it can't be anything other than 5-star. You saw that crawl and how astonishing that was. I don't think I've ever had a loco crawl as well as that before. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the best I've ever seen. And it's reasonably powerful. It's not terribly heavy, but it does seem to be reasonably powerful nonetheless, so that is a very, very good sign. The mechanism, I can't fault. It's got full tender pickups, it's got a decent motor in there, and that is all evidence just in the way that it performs. However, there are no proper bearings on the wheel set, and that has to be the only criticism I have with the mechanism, but I think that is enough to knock off a star. So 4-star there, and quality similarly, it is very good quality, it's very sturdily built, but again, there's a lot of plastic construction on the model, and also the lack of proper bearings does mean that I can't give it a full 5-star, but it isn't too bad at all. Now value, even for £94.99, which is the RRP, I think this is a good deal. However, for the Hatton's price of £49, that is just insane. It's not that often that we see great value like this in the hobby, and when we do, it sort of comes and knocks you over a little bit, doesn't it? So yeah, that is astonishing. It has to be 5-star there, and as I say, there's a link in the description, so if you want to pick one of those up for £49, I can highly recommend it. Okay, so overall then, that is 8.25 out of 10. That is a very good score for a Railroad loco. Into the ranking she goes then, let's see, third, just above the Mahano 440 it looks like, and below the Hornby J50. That is very impressive. Lovely coaches, aren't they? The Tyseley Express, Tyseley Connection rather. So there you are then folks, you've now heard my thoughts on these beautiful Hornby Railroad locomotives, Hall Class locomotives, so do let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. But for now, I do hope you've enjoyed that as much as I did. Yes, I do love the Hornby Railroad range, as you can probably well tell. But yeah, I think that's all I've got to say, so once again, thank you for your company. I hope you did enjoy it today, and I will see you all very soon. Let's wait for this Hall Class to just come by one more time, Adderley Hall that is. It's no good just saying Hall Class, because they're all Hall Classes today. But yeah, there she is. Absolutely lovely. I hate to say it because I always say it, but she really is another one of my favourites. 50% of my locos are my favourites. Alright folks, thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Take care folks.